Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us for the SMPS Chapter Volunteers Orientation. The program will now begin. This is Mary Cruz. I'm the Vice President of Membership and Chapter Services here at SMPS. Before we begin, I just wanted to go over a few housekeeping items here. On the right side of your screen, you'll see the GoToWebinar sidebar. You can click on the orange arrow to expand or minimize the side panel. Please note that all lines are muted. There will also be time for live Q&A during the program. Please type your questions in the question chat box in the lower right-hand side of your screen. And please know that today's program is being recorded, and we will be posting it on the SMPS YouTube channel at youtube.com/SMPS National. And finally, there are a few documents as well, saved handouts that you'll see within your toolbar that you can download, view, or download following the webinar. And that we have the chapter services document, we have today's slides, and also the calendar for chapter volunteers. So at this time, I would like to welcome Nancy Ursery. She is the Society President, and she is the Associate Vice President with HNTB Corporation. And we also have Michael Geary, the Chief Executive Officer with SMPS and the SMPS Foundation. Nancy?
Hi, Mary, and hi, all of you wonderful volunteers out there. I'm so excited to be here today for just a few minutes to welcome you to this orientation. SMPS is such an amazing organization of over almost 7,000 of us, and we all volunteer. And those of you who are on this call are especially special today, let me say that, because you are here and you have in some way, shape, or form signed up to be a board member or a committee leader or a committee member on one of your chapter efforts. So I want to remind you just how amazing we can be as a team working together. So often we find ourselves leading a committee or an effort and feeling as though we are perhaps alone or taking on more than our fair share. Keep in mind that you've got 7,000 other people out there, not all in your chapter, but perhaps anywhere from 40 to 200 people in your chapter who are always willing to step up and help you and lend a hand, especially if you ask them for one specific thing. Many times you'll find, or if you remember, when you got involved in SMPS, it was because someone else invited you to do something. They asked you specifically to use your talents and your interest to accomplish some task or participate in some effort. So keep that in mind. We are a welcoming, networking, fabulous organization of people who are out there trying to help each other succeed in whatever we do. So ask for help, include people, do the best you can, which I know you all will, and let's change this organization to be a leadership organization that will transform our businesses. Thanks again for being here today. I need to step off for another work call, but I wanted to make sure that you all knew that I was standing here right beside you and behind you. Mary, I'll give it back to you.
Thank you so much, Nancy. I appreciate that, and good luck with your day today. And I would also like to welcome Michael Geary. Again, he's the Chief Executive Officer with SMPS and the SMPS Foundation. Michael? Michael, it looks like you may not have dialed in. I'm not sure if you're trying to use your mic. I do see that you're in the group, but I don't see that you've connected via audio. I sent your pen to you. Okay, well, while Mike is joining us with his audio, I'm going to go ahead and share with you. He's going to be joining us momentarily, and just chime in, Mike, if you get your audio up to speed here. The SMPS brand platform update is something that Mike was going to talk with you today about, and we're very, very excited about this. And once he joins us, he can give you a bit more information. A couple of the talking points are the points that he wanted to make sure that we convey today, is that this updated brand platform will be providing resources. We will be providing resources and training chapters on the new voice. We're very excited about this, and as part of the brand, that includes messaging to our members, our website, producing new collateral, publishing a new website, and we've already begun working on these initiatives, updating graphics to reflect the new brand platform. So the time frame that we're looking at, March and October of 2016, the needs assessment and the perception survey has already taken place. Oh, here he is. He's going to just join me right here. Hold on one second.
Yes, modern technology. Hi, everybody. Sorry about, thankfully, Mary's just down the hall. I'm winded because I literally just ran down the hall to join this call. I don't know why you could not hear me. Anyway, I was saying thank you for your time and effort for being part of the organization. Lots of exciting things going on, and that will be covered now and coming up in the future. But one of the major initiatives that we're working on, as Mary was giving an introduction to, is excuse me, sorry, revising our brand platform. And you know in this business what that means. We're looking at the way that we talk about the organization, the way we present the organization, but it's more than just words and identity, graphic identity. It's also the products and services and the experience of being a member or a customer or an attendee at any SMPS event, any interaction someone has with us. You may remember we talked about this if you were involved as a volunteer back last year, in fact, back in March 2016. So this has been a project that's been going on for well over a year. You'll see on your screen the timeline and how it impacts chapters, and we will talk more about this later, but when you see by the calendar, we will be working on the voice, the essence, and we expect that we'll be updating all of our collateral materials, membership recruitment materials, website, et cetera, and that will all translate or filter out to the chapters as well. The goal is that we all have a common language, common theme, and how we talk about the organization. And we're working on that now, and we will have more information in April at the PLS, the President's Leadership Symposium for next year's Presidents-elect. And after that point, we'll have more concrete information and materials to share with chapters. And then really at Build Business in August is when the formal rollout of the new brand platform will be announced. That may be things like updated graphic identity, certainly as we've already said, the language that we use. There will be a brand new website, new collateral materials, and we want the chapters and hope the chapters will model that, emulate that, and we will be talking in April about the support to help you update your own customized materials that you use at the chapter level, websites, brochures, et cetera, et cetera. So more to come, but we wanted to give you a heads up on this, that this is a major project, and more will come out next spring, but we don't want you to get caught off guard next spring and say, hey, what's going on? So now you know. And with that, I will say thank you again for your involvement in being part of SMPS, and I'll turn it back over to Mary. Thank you.
All right, folks. Thank you, Mike, for running down the hall. We made it work, right? Okay, here we go. So thank you so much, Nancy and Michael, for your warm welcome and for the informative information that you've shared. So I would like to go ahead and we'll move on with the presentation. Joining me today in presenting is Tina Meyer. She's the Deputy Executive Director with SMPS Headquarters. Again, myself, Mary Cruz, Vice President of Membership and Chapter Services. We also have joining us Natalie Gazer, Chapter Services Manager, and Julio Santos is the Membership and Chapter Services Coordinator with SMPS Headquarters. So before we get started, really before we begin, it is important to thank all of you. We know that this organization simply cannot function and be what it is today without the volunteers and truly understanding that this is a grassroots organization. I know many of you were interested in volunteering, possibly signed up, or eager to serve your chapter. You put your name in a hat, or perhaps you were coerced into it. either way, whatever your position is, you need to know that from SNPS headquarters, the Society Board of Directors, and from our members, know that you are greatly valued beyond words, and we are enormously appreciative for each of you. So thank you for your service to your chapter and to the Society overall and to this profession. So now I'm going to turn it over to Tina Myers.
Well, thank you, Mary. Okay, can you hear me pretty well?
I sure can.
Okay. Well, to get this started, to know your SNPS and your chapter, before we even get into what is a nonprofit corporation, I want to make sure that there's a couple of things that we all understand. So those of you joining us, you're representatives of members of your board. You might be a director, you might be an officer, or you might be serving on a committee. You might be a committee chair. You might be serving in, other type of volunteer positions. One of the things that we want to make sure that you are being thoughtful of is that, especially if you're newer to the organizations, one of the things that we really need to think about is and know about is the organization itself. Because as a volunteer, regardless of your position, you really are a representative of SNPS and all that is. So we want you to kind of dig in and get to know who we are, what we're all about. For those of you who are newer to the organization, maybe this is your first year as a volunteer, we encourage you to dig into our website, delve into all the different content and information that we have available to really give you just a little bit more information about who SNPS is about. So you can answer questions from your own members or individuals when you're out there on your own or going to different events or representing SNPS in any capacity. So that said, just a couple of key points about who SNPS is and knowing a little bit more about your chapter. Let's get started with a nonprofit corporation. Could you go back to that one slide, Mary? So a nonprofit corporation overall, of course, it's right in front of you. You can read, but let me highlight just one element here, that it's an organization that does not distribute its surplus funds to owners or shareholders, but instead uses them to help pursue its goals. Many times there are questions, because we are a nonprofit, there might be that question, well, can you actually make a profit? Of course you can make a profit, and we encourage you to do so. It really is just a matter of how you are using those funds, and that is not to the benefit of the directors and officers or the members overall personally. So we can go ahead into the next slide. So many of you may be, and hopefully are well aware of the SNPS Foundation and the organization overall, SNPS, and what is that relationship? And sometimes just that visual chart helps you understand what that dynamic is. So this is simply a visual representation of how we are formally structured. SNPS is considered the parent organization over the SNPS Foundation. Just for tax purposes, IRS considers it a type 1 organization, which is a supporting organization. And there are some governance issues that kind of align with that. But at the end of the day, regardless of how it actually falls into a structured organizational chart, Mary, if you go into the next slide. Ultimately, what we want to make sure is that we are seen as one organization, and there has been great strides in working with the leaders of the SNPS Foundation trustees, our own board leaders overall, and how we can even make this a more unified effort in work and research together so it benefits everyone in the membership and all the stakeholders of SNPS overall. So that's pretty much what we want you to know in terms of our structure, who we are. And then Mary is going to talk to you a little bit to the next slide on our chapters and more.
Great, thank you, Tina. So just to give you a quick overview of SNPS today, we represent nearly 7,000 marketing and business development professionals from the AEC industry and related specialty firms. We do have 58 dynamic and extensive professional network chapters across the country, United States and Canada. We're at 57 and we've just chartered, working to charter a brand new chapter, Rio Grande Valley. We're very excited to have them as an official chapter, as well as we're working on getting close to another in the Inland Empire in California. So we are growing. We're very excited about that. SNPS is led by a dedicated volunteer board of 7 officers and directors. And it's supported by professional staff here in Old Town Alexandria and also one in South Carolina, that works remotely, but we have 14 total staff supporting the Society's mission and vision and all of its goals. So just to give you a quick overview of the board of directors, as you can see there, Nancy joined us. She's president and took office on September 1st. We have 7 board of directors, a diverse group of people from across the country. So please know their information is on our site as volunteers, as leaders, those that are interested in serving in other ways. Please reach out to our board of directors. They're very willing to talk anytime and to engage with you. So we're very, very blessed to have such great leadership. And we also have our headquarters staff. We have 14, as I mentioned. Again, all of our information is available on the SNPS website. And knowing your position and your role, if you are working as a web person, updating the website, or perhaps membership, you're the incoming president or working in marketing for your chapter, whatever your role might be, please reach out. Of course, the chapter services team is always here for you, but don't hesitate to call Kevin Doyle about certification, or Natasha if you need program ideas, or possibly a sample or model related to a program activity. And of course, Antonio Payne is our controller, and he can help all of you, any of the treasurers, presidents, any of our leadership with budgets, information related to finance. So just know that we're here, and don't hesitate to reach out anytime. So moving on, I want to remind you, I'm sure you all are familiar with it, but if you're not, please know the mission of the Society. The SNPS mission is a society-wide mission, which is to advocate for, educate, and connect leaders in the building industry. And so knowing that advocating is, in our case, is not about having a presence on the Hill. It's not about a legislative effort. It's about advocating for the profession, your profession of professional services marketing. And how do we work with you, with others, with leaders to be an advocate for the profession itself and all that you do in marketing and business development? That's our position, and that is our mission. So you should also know about our vision, which we're very, very excited about. So this vision is fairly new. It's exciting, and it aligns so well with our mission. It is business transformed through marketing leadership. Through the leadership of Craig Galati, he was our chapter president, he was our society president, last year. He's serving now as past president. But during Craig's year, last year, and with the support of the board of directors and staff at a planning session, they came up with this vision. And what this means, and what we love about it, is that your leaders are looking at SNPS and trying to find a way that everything you do as a marketer and business developer, as a professional, that there is a fundamental understanding of the leadership, the role marketing plays in the success of your firm and the leadership of your firm. So as volunteers, as chapter leaders, please ensure that you know this mission and vision, that you are familiar with it, that you believe in it, that you share it, and that you align with it, that your chapters are aligned with this, and that you set your goals accordingly. So very excited about the mission and the vision. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and open it up. We've shared some information. If you have any questions, just go ahead and type them in now. I don't see that we have any at this point, but please feel free at any time throughout the program. If you type in a question, we'll make sure to get to it by the end of the program as well, and we'll be stopping periodically to take questions. Okay, so I am going to keep on going here and let you know this is what the remainder of the program looks like. We're going to be talking about your role, the expectations of that, fiduciary responsibilities, your relationship, the relationship with the chapters and SNPS, and also we'll go over valuable resources and tools that can help you in your role. So you, as a volunteer, I love this picture. This is actually our Washington, D.C. board. I was just looking at, perusing through their new website and found this great picture. And so I wanted to share that with you, and just, as volunteers, whatever level you may be at. So there's many on this call today. You may be a committee member, you may be serving as a director of your committee or chapter president, whatever your role. it's just important that you know that we're all in this together, whether it's, the committee members, if they're interested and only can volunteer an hour or two a month, or if you're leading a chapter, know that the staff, the board, our fellows, our chapter champions, all of those that are invested influencers in SNPS are here to support you. We are here to help you as a leader to grow together, to grow this profession and our society together. So I just want to make sure that this is not just about, the rules and serving and what that means, but it's also about this opportunity for you. This is an opportunity for you to grow and to become a leader and get to that next level. So we're very excited and we're very happy that so many volunteers have helped run and develop this grassroots organization. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Tina Myers to talk about expectations.
Okay, well, thank you, Mary. Okay. So the next part is really dedicated and specifically to members of the board of directors of each of your chapters, the directors and the officers overall. But of course, if you're not if you're not a member of the board, this is really good information for you to be aware of as well, so you have an understanding of what their obligations are. Some of the things we're going to talk about are not necessarily things that you would be aware of even coming into the board, but these are things that are absolutely critical, they're important, and they help mitigate risk. And that's why we include it in these presentations. So the first thing we want to talk about in terms of expectations, and this is for every member of the board, is that you need to make sure that you understand your financial position, the health, and where you are. That means every member of the board, not just the president, not just the treasurer, not just the secretary, every member, regardless of your position. You have a fiduciary responsibility and you need to understand as such everything that is coming in and that is going out. This is the good, sound management of taking care of the business of your chapter. The other thing is if you're not aware of what is going on financially, if you haven't had an update on your financial reports, whether it is your treasurer presenting it or someone else, there is no way that you can make sound, smart decisions on behalf of your chapter. And you never know if something kind of goes awry or your numbers are off. At the end of the day, if something is wrong, you can't come back and say, well, I just didn't know. I didn't have that information in front of me. And that's where you have a little highlight there where it says, ignorance is not bliss. You are obligated to find out the information. If you ever find that, whether you're the president or a member of the board and you're asking for financial information, and maybe it is, you would expect this is what your treasurer is going to do at each board meeting, you have some type of financial statement in front of you. And there are some basics ones that we can talk about a little bit later or in depth at another time. But at the end of the day, if for some reason your treasurer is saying, oh, well, I'll get you to that later, or, I don't have it available right now, or, oh, everything is just fine, I'll just tell you what's going on, that is not acceptable. You need to make sure that you have the actual numbers and the information in front of you in the form of a solid, sound report, so you really understand what is going on. So I can't emphasize that enough. It is absolutely important, and all of you have an obligation to understand what is going on financially. The other thing that we want to make sure that you are aware of, and I'm going to kind of put these in a little different order because the way they relate to one another. But as a board of directors, you have one voice. It is not just the decisions that you make, what you are working on is not just the voice of, separately from the president or Sally or Tina or Mike or Matt. It's all of you. So I want to talk about this just a little bit and why this is important. At the end of the day, when you are at a board meeting, hopefully you are having smart, thoughtful conversations. And sometimes, that conversation or the decisions that you need to make might be contrary to one another. But that is where the real work begins, and all those voices need to be heard. But at the end of the day, you might have to take a vote, and maybe it's all of you unanimously, you're in agreement, and that is great. But maybe that vote is a 5-4 vote. At the end of the day, though, it's still the decision of the board, and the board is that one voice. And it's important to make sure that you understand that, because when you're outside of that meeting and when you're with other members of the organization or maybe other volunteers, whoever those stakeholders might be, you need to speak in unison and that you have had a chance to say what you had to say, but at the end of the day, you are all in it together and you are working toward those decisions and you're faithful to those decisions that the board made. The other point that I want to make to this, and sometimes this just gets a little confusing because maybe you haven't been in this environment before, but understand that your president is the one who sets the stage and the framework. They're the ones who have been given that opportunity based on the information that we worked on from past years, where you need to go, looking at the strategic vision. Well, you know, what is that voice and what is the framework we want to put on it this year? And they guide that discussion and that good work and the strategic vision with everything else that needs to be done. But at the end of the day, the president isn't the boss. The president isn't the person to say, well, you must do this. I said it, I'm the president, so be it. That's not the way that works. All of you have an equal voice and all of you have one voice. So I just want to make sure that you understand that that's really the dynamic. So challenge one another, have those really good conversations. Sometimes it's difficult, but make sure that you are heard and then you come together collectively as a team. And then please make sure that you are thoughtful about the information that you are discussing as a board. Some things you can discuss, with your members and you want to share, but for the most part, you do need to treat, certain information under confidence and make sure that it's there within your board members in the discussions that you've had at the board meeting overall. The other thing that we want to make sure that you are doing is promoting the society to others. That's really about knowing the society. You are an agent. We need to get the good word out there. We need to get people excited about it. So whenever you have the opportunity, please make sure that you're building us up. And make sure that you're also reaching out to us. Sometimes we don't know what we don't know. You might be having some challenges, or maybe you have some assistance that you need, or maybe you just need a little guidance or just someone to talk to help you, even with another member of your team. That's what we're here for. We have a dedicated team in chapter services and membership overall, and they want to help you out. But honestly, the entire team here is here to help you. So all you need to do is reach out to us and give us a call, and we will help you in whatever manner we can. And so, again, to the effect of even kind of promoting the society, being aware of everything that is SNPS, we also want to make sure that you are thoughtful and you are staying current on the issue and trends affecting the work of our members, the AEC firms, what is going on and what are the challenges, what are the trends, just to be thoughtful, and so you can speak to it and you can actually work toward helping our membership out overall, because that's what we're here for. Big fans of the F word, and that is fiduciary. Such a fun conversation. Let's go on to the next slide, Mary. Okay. So, I'm speaking directly to our directors and our officers of all of our chapters right now. Many of you might be familiar with this. Many of you might not. It might be brand new to you. But what you need to know is that members of the board, you are a fiduciary. And there are a few things and definitions assigned with that, but really a fiduciary, you are entrusted and you have the duty to act in the best interests of the society and its members. And that's really what this is. But what I need you to understand is that the duty of care, the duty of loyalty, and the duty of obedience are all legal obligations of you as a board member within your organization. So we're going to break it down just a little bit, not too detailed, but we can always talk about this more. And if you want even a special meeting with your own board of directors, we're happy to make those happen one-on-one. But let's talk about the duty of care a little bit. The duty of care basically is when the officers and directors are exercising ordinary and reasonable care in the performance of their duties. You are being honest and you are acting in good faith of the organization overall. So we want to make sure that when you're making decisions and say you have a meeting, you have a board meeting every month, everything that you are talking about, you're just being very thoughtful in making decisions on behalf of the interest of its members, of your members, and of the society. And you're being very consistently acting in the best interest of the corporation, which is SNPS. The duty of loyalty, it's about avoiding conflicts of interest, avoiding using your position to garner assets and to anything that would result in an inappropriate financial gain or benefit overall. I'm sorry, I just lost my thought on something. In terms of conflicts of interest, it is something I wanted to point out. Sometimes you need to try to avoid a conflict of interest, but what that might mean sometimes is if you have, say you have a brother, that is really great in designing websites, and you are, on the board and say, my brother can do this, and he's really great at it, and we're just going to make it happen, and maybe you already have a contract or something in place. Well, that's kind of an exaggeration, but maybe that's what you want to do. Typically, what you would do, it doesn't mean that can't happen, but you would want to disclose that, and you would want to let your other members of the board kind of talk about it and vote on it and see if it really is in the best interest of the organization, or if it really is a conflict of interest and they don't want to go forward. So there are examples sometimes, but that's just kind of a general sense of where it might apply. But if something feels like it's a conflict of interest, make sure to disclose it, make sure to share it with your board, and that everything is open and transparent. In terms of the duty of obedience, this is really being faithful to the mission and goals of the organization and making sure that you're following the governing documents. And there's another slide on the governing documents overall. But overall, obedience is you're following the rules of the law, federal, state, local, and then your own governing documents. You have your bylaws, policies, and procedures, your articles of incorporation. You must abide by them. Those are the rules, and that's a part of the duty of obedience. So you can go to the next slide, Mary. So your tools of governance, and this is what we're just talking about a little bit more in the actual policies and documents that you might have in front of you that you need to be obedient to, but are actually tools overall that hopefully these things are going to make it easy for you to also manage if you're reading them and you're paying attention to them and you're giving them due care. The one thing I want you to pay attention to, though, and maybe even a numerical order might be good, but there is a hierarchical order for the governing documents overall. And so you'll see that the Articles of Incorporation are the very top. And what that means to you is that, say, for example, you have in your bylaws something that doesn't quite align or with your Articles of Incorporation, and it says something to the opposite of what your Articles of Incorporation say. Well, at the end of the day, it's your Articles of Incorporation that you must abide by. And if you're not abiding by that, then actually can put your task, that can put your tax status at risk. So probably nothing crazy is going to go on, but you do need to make sure that you have read your Articles of Incorporation. Do you know where they are? Do you know what they say? There's probably only 1 or 2 paragraphs in there that actually talk about who you are and what you are supposed to be doing, but it's really simple language. But it's important that you understand exactly what that means and that you're abiding by those. Your bylaws, this just goes along with everything else that we have talked about. Make sure that you have read them. And honestly, if you really take a look at them, they can help you make things much simpler sometimes, and because it actually will outline how you might have to go through your nominations and elections process. It might outline exactly the date that you're supposed to be, sending out certain notices, and how you send out a notice to have a members vote on certain issues and all of that fun stuff. But take a look at them. Many of our chapters right now are already working with us on adopting some model bylaws that we have recently updated. So if you're in that position, you have any questions about it, give us a call at the office overall, but there is a process and we do need to approve them, but that's what we're here for. So I won't go into all these others overall, but we have the strategic plan, affiliation agreement, budget, conflict of interest, policies and procedures, and more. But these are all your tools of governance and your governing documents. So I know we briefly talked about the antitrust sensitive areas. Oh, no, we didn't actually. We talked about a conflict of interest. So let's talk about the antitrust. The antitrust discussion that we really need to get into, and that I want to make sure all of you are aware of, is based on an act that was put together in the late 1800s, actually, and has since been modified, and it's called the Sherman Antitrust Act. And so if you want to really dig into all that fun information, you can certainly Google it, but here's what you need to know about this specifically, is that at the end of the day, this is about making sure there isn't a restraint of trade. And the things that you, as a chapter, and the type of organization that we are, the things that we need to think about and make sure that we are not in conflict in any way are things like even certification. So I imagine that most of you know that with our CPSM program, we do not require that you must be a member. And so there is a very real reason why we do that. Because if we decided that in order to be able to get your CPSM and your certification through the society, you must be a member, that could be conceived as a restraint of trade, an opportunity to succeed in a profession and to go far and over and just to be successful. So that is why it is quite intentional for most organizations to make sure that the certification program or the licensure is available to all. Now, that doesn't mean we can't ask for a non-member to pay a little bit more or to do different things, but at the end of the day, we need to make sure that it is open. So that's one real, very specific example that would apply to an organization such as SMPS. The other type of things that we might not get involved in is price fixing necessarily, not really a concern here. But sometimes, you know, in the past and many, many years ago, there might have been specific lead groups that were designated just for certain people, and it was sponsored by SMPS, where you could, you know, just only have one type of organization as in a part of a meeting where you're talking about trends in the industry and what might be going on in a given municipality. When it's sponsored by SMPS, that could be a risk. And it would be something that might come under the antitrust considerations and something you need to be thoughtful about. So those are the points that we want to bring home. At the end of the day, this is about mitigating risk overall, but these are why we will make certain decisions about whether we include members and where we don't include members or make it open to them. So Mary, you can go on to the next slide. Okay. So, and you can go on to the next one. Are there any questions, by the way, before we even kind of dig into this a little bit more?
I'm looking now. There was one I answered already, but it was just about a national calendar of events and when our webinars and everything takes place and training as well. So I shared that there is a calendar that headquarters put together, and that is actually attached in the handouts of this webinar. It's also in the All Chapter Leaders community. But it goes through our reoccurring webinars that we have for the society, for all members, and also deadlines and training dates, training webinar dates as well. So check that out, and I'm happy to email that out to you as well following this webinar. I don't see any other questions, Tina, at this point, so we can go on.
Perfect. Well, thank you. I just want to make sure. Okay, so more fun stuff. Let's talk about the affiliation agreement. Some of you may be aware of this. Some of you may say, like, what the heck is an affiliation agreement? Well, let me explain. In order for an SMPS chapter to be an SMPS chapter and chartered, there must be a signed affiliation agreement. And some of these are very old, and many of you might not have seen the most recent ones that have been signed. But at the end of the day, what this is an agreement between both parties on how we are going to work with one another. So there are expectations from a chapter to things that we need you to do, that we expect you to do, to be a chartered SNPS organization. And on that same note, there are things that we really need to do for you. You know, how are we helping you? What are we doing to make sure that you are supported in the manner in which you need to be supported and to be successful? So that's what this is. It's expectations from one another. Now, it has been some time since this had been updated, but we just finished our last draft just a couple of days ago, and we will be sending this out to all of you. And in the past, we have not asked that this be looked at annually. It really just was the last one that was signed. Unless it had to be updated, we would have the next president sign it. And that might be 5, 6, 7 years in between. Well, we're going to change that up. I think that I and the whole team here, the membership team and our board, feel it really is important to make sure that this is in front of you annually. So probably starting in October, we are going to be asking each of our presidents to take a look at this and sign it so it's in front of you and there's a full understanding of how we need and want to work with one another. And so if anything needs to change even in the next year, then the next president will be able to get to see those changes too. But this is something for the entire board and team to see overall, so you truly have an understanding of how we can work together and make one another successful. So that's it on the affiliation agreement. And that simply aligns with, you know, the chapters being chartered. You may not be an SNPS chapter without having that official agreement and our stamp of approval in being chartered. On number 3, group exemption. So on behalf of all of our chapters, SNPS will file for group exemption. And so a chapter does not need to do anything in this regard. It's simply something that we will do in your behalf. There's no action item from you. The affiliation agreement will actually state there's a bullet in there that states that you agree to allow us to have you as a part of that group exemption, something that the IRS asks from us. So anyway, from time to time, you may be asked for proof of exemption, and in that case, we have a standard affidavit that we can send on your behalf. So there is no determination letter that they might ask for specifically for each chapter. However, in lieu of that affidavit or that determination letter, if you are ever asked for that, we will go ahead and send a letter, the affidavit in lieu of the determination letter. I know I just said that. So your treasurer might be asked about this from time to time, or the president might be asked about this from time to time, but that's what that is in regard to. And so then the other thing that we want to make sure that you are aware of, especially as officers and directors of your boards and chapters, is that we provide D&O insurance for all of you, and that is also a part of our affiliation agreement. The D&O insurance ultimately provides all directors and all officers D&O liability for its chapters. So the type of things that this might be applied to might be adverse employment actions, libel and slander, invasion of privacy, copyright infringement, that type of thing. So if there's ever anything crazy, we need to talk to one another. We will ask you to work with Antonio Payne, our controller. He's a CPA, and we can give you all the details. But more information on D&O insurance and fund administrative stuff is all in the chapter management manual as well, under the finance and administration section. The other thing that we want to note out, and I'm sure that many of you are already well aware of this, is that we collect all the dues for our membership, and we are responsible for the fulfillment of everything that is, associated with membership dues. So our team is responsible for sending out the bills and notices and, anything that is involved in retaining. And so just so you are aware of that, that process overall, our chapters are not obligated to take care of that side of it, other than reminding people and making sure that you know what is going on in terms of, membership expirations and that type of thing. But overall, membership dues are collected through SNPS headquarters, and SNPS provides a stipend, which is looked at every year, but a distribution to our chapters based on a renewal member or a new member.
Thank you, Tina. There was a question back on the antitrust. Would having meetings for senior members or emerging professionals be considered a membership restriction or antitrust?
So that's a really good question. And my first response is no, not necessarily. You can have group meetings with, just your marketing coordinators or, directors or maybe just business development individuals. The concern would only be, what is the conversation being had at those meetings? Are you doing anything that would lead itself to an antitrust issue? Are you talking about changing trends in the industry and fixing anything? Are you providing an opportunity to talk about work that can be gained outside of the scope of that group? I mean, only within that group, rather. So having just that one specific group, whether they're senior or not a concern. It would only be a concern with the context of the meeting itself. Hopefully that answers that question. Okay.
Thank you.
Sure.
So we're at a break again for questions, but you just answered the one I had. I don't see any others at this point, but please, I know we're going through quite a bit of information, soaking it all in, but certainly if you've taken notes or written something down or it dawns on you, please send it through the chat box, or you can email any one of the presenters on the call today. So we're going to go ahead on, and I'm going to turn it over to Natalie Gozzard and Julio Santos to share with you the resources and tools that can help you as a leader, as a volunteer.
Thanks, Mary. I'm going to talk to you, everyone, today about the resources and tools, as Mary mentioned. To some of you, this may be a refresher. To others, this may be completely new. So first off, I want to talk about we have this in the handout section. This is the chapter services flyer that we have. This basically gives you a rundown of all the resources and tools you have, as well as what headquarters can actually do for you, such as send over collaterals and giveaways for your events, and the resources that you have available to you, such as extranet, our YouTube channel, SurveyMonkey, and many more. And speaking of the resources we have, one of the biggest homes for our resources is the All Chapter Leaders community. If you don't have access to this, please let me know, but all chapter leaders do have access, or volunteers do have access. There's hundreds of resources. It's also a discussion tool that allows you to share with your peers. I mean, it could be best practices, or it could just be more of a social type of discussion list. And we also have a ton of important documents in there. We have the chapter management manuals, which is 6 sections from membership all the way to finance and governance. We also have some toolkits in there, which is great for treasurers. And we also have the 2017-18 calendar for chapter volunteers, which is also, I believe, in the handouts. And that basically gives you some deadlines, some important dates for budgets, SFE, CPY, regionals, et cetera. And we also have a massive document in All Chapter Leaders community that is the chapter education report. And that basically compiles all the educational programs that happen society-wide through every chapter. And it is available, so you can go in there and compare your chapter to another, or you can just take a look to see what everyone else is doing. And we actually also have different ways and different channels that we feed information through, and I believe Natalie's going to talk to those.
Thanks, Julio. Hi, volunteers. This is Natalie. So yes, we do have an exciting interactive virtual training available for you. If you need ideas or best practices on specific topics such as membership, finance, how to run a board meeting, etc., we can train you or assist you with that. Our virtual volunteer roundtables are programs we conduct almost monthly. We had 9 last year, and they provide you a fantastic opportunity to learn more about and ask questions on a specific topic, a society initiative, and or a specific resource that we have available to assist you. So these virtual volunteer roundtables typically run 45 minutes or less. They are interactive, and they run as a live GoToWebinar program, and we record them so that you can access them when it's convenient for you, or so that you can share it with your team. And the roundtables are facilitated by SNPS staff. Now, the invites are sent out to chapter leaders via email. So I encourage you to get together with your fellow chapter volunteers and check out these videos to stay in the know. And if you have a topic suggestion, I am all ears. So please feel free to send me ideas or requests for what you'd like or maybe need to hear more about. These roundtable recordings are saved within My SNPS and your All Chapter Leaders Community Library, and they're in the Virtual Volunteer Roundtable Programs folder, pretty intuitive, and they're posted on the SNPS YouTube channel. SNPS YouTube channel, I'm hopeful you've visited this informative and fun channel. On the SNPS YouTube channel, we have a playlist dedicated to volunteer training. All you have to do is click on the playlist tab, and then you'll click on the volunteer training videos. And this is where you can access the recorded volunteer roundtables, as well as the additional webinars that we've held for volunteers, such as that fantastic one Tina did last month on risk management program. And we also have the past State of Society programs on that YouTube, on that training channel. It's very useful to keep you in the know. So please do check out the volunteer training playlist and share the links with your team. And speaking of your team, we know that you are all doing great things to effectively serve your, hey, there are members. So it's time that you really showcase your chapter. The SNPS Chapter Awards Program recognizes chapters and chapter presidents for excellence in serving the society. The 2017 Chapter President of the Year Award is going to recognize an SNPS chapter president who has demonstrated excellence in leadership while serving a chapter and its members. And this was throughout the 2016-17 year. So this was your chapter president last year, right? So the award submission is due for this person this February. Tell us all about how your 2016-17 chapter president led and inspired your chapter. The 2017 SNPS Striving for Excellence Award recognizes those chapters that in 2016-17 significantly advanced and enhanced professional services, marketing, and BD. And this was in 5 categories. And those categories are excellent programs, strong leadership, increased membership, quality communications, and strong financial health. So here's your opportunity to really showcase your chapter overall in a Striving for Excellence category, or even just pick one of the great programs or special events you conducted in 2016-17 and showcase that in the programs category, or showcase that awesome social media campaign that you ran in the communications category. So for more information on the 2017 awards, you can just go to the SNPS website and click on the recognition tab. And by the way, we did have, we presented a virtual volunteer roundtable on chapter awards for this year, so you can find that on that YouTube playlist. And here's another tip: the SFE judging criteria can truly be used as a roadmap or a checklist for your chapter during your planning, your strategic planning. You can sit down with your team, you can review the criteria, you can check off what you're already doing, and perhaps pinpoint where you might have some gaps. And then to fill these gaps, you can review the past winning submittals, the award submittals, and find just what these award-winning chapters are doing and did to serve their members so very well. Now, these winning submittals I just mentioned of previous years, they're saved within your All Chapter Leaders community, and they can be reviewed and used as examples of what successful chapters are doing very well to serve their members. And within the submittals, you can find excellent ideas on membership recruitment. Maybe you're looking for an idea how to start off or kick off a new member orientation. How about engaging your past chapter leaders? Social media usage, scholarships, mentoring programs, and just programs overall, just to name a few. The submittals serve as excellent resources, and I encourage you to check them all out. You can even do, for example, like an apples to apples sort of review of chapters in your chapter size category. So I'm the staff rep for chapter awards, so feel free to reach out to me on how you can approach and roll the chapter awards criteria into your chapter's planning. Another great resource we have for you is the use of our headquarters SurveyMonkey account. You can contact any staff member for the login and password. And really what's going to happen then is you're going to unlock a world of surveys that you can use and repurpose. And you know, surveying your members really is a best practice to ensure that you're meeting their needs and interests. So like I said, there are surveys in there that you can repurpose. There are surveys on programs, membership, and even non-member surveys. They all exist and they're for your use. So any member of your any member of our chapter services team really can assist you with the creation of and or repurposing of a survey for your use. And you know, if you have SurveyMonkey skills, you're familiar with SurveyMonkey, we'll provide you the login information, and you go forth and survey, get the information that you need. So I'm going to wrap up now, and before I do, I just wanted to echo the sentiment shared already by Nancy, Mike, Tina, Mary, most likely Julio as well too, and I just wanted to say thank you to all our volunteers. You know, the SNPS staff is really here to assist you. The entire headquarters team and your society board is dedicated to your success. And that said, I just want to encourage you to please consider your chapter services team as your first point of contact with anything that you might need, any questions you might have, any connections you might need to make, or just even have us share some best practices of what other chapters are doing very well. So again, we're here to assist you while you serve your chapter and the society overall, and we really do look forward to your successes. Now we're going to take some questions on today's program, and just a reminder, submit your questions via the question chat box, and or you can raise your hand and Mary will unmute you. So let's go to some questions.
Thank you, Natalie. I am checking now, and I don't see any questions that have been typed in. So we must have done a good job, a thorough job of delivering the information today. I'm sure some information might trigger in your mind after the fact, but as Natalie said and many others, please don't hesitate to reach out to us. All of the staff is listed on the SNPS website. You can connect with us easily through there. Also, my name is Mary Cruz, Mary@snps.org, Natalie@snps.org, Julio@snps.org. Very easy. So reach out to us anytime. Again, I'm not seeing any questions, so we'll end today's program. We're excited about the new year. We're excited to get to know each of you. Again, thank you for your service and your dedication to the society and to your chapter. Thank you. Thank you all. This concludes today's program.